I've been covering supported and unsupported Mac upgrades for years now, and this year we have a bit of an unusual transition. It's almost the end of the road for Intel Macs. Unsupported Tahoe installations are still experimental, and some files in Finder that may appear to be on your Mac may actually only be stored in the cloud. So I'm going to show you exactly what I do before any major software update. And thanks to today's sponsor, MacPaw, maker of CleanMyMac, we have some incredibly powerful tools that will help us find duplicate files, large files, old applications, and a bunch of other junk and clutter along the way. But first, let's make sure the update that you're considering actually belongs on your Mac. For a regular supported installation, go up to the Apple menu and click System Settings. From here, click General and then Software Update. Software Update should only offer updates and upgrades that are officially compatible with your Mac. You can also go to the Apple menu and click About this Mac to see which Mac model you actually have. If you want to double check exactly how far that model is officially supported, hold down the Option key and click the Apple menu. About this Mac will change to System Information. Open that, find the model identifier for your Mac, and then enter it into EveryMac's Ultimate Mac Lookup Guide, which I'll link in the description below. That will show you the maximum officially supported version of macOS for your specific model of computer. The important change this year is that macOS 27 Golden Gate will only support Silicon Macs. No Intel Macs are on Apple's new compatibility list. For example, this 2020 iMac runs Tahoe and is officially supported for it with no problem, but it won't be officially supported for Golden Gate. And my 2013 MacBook Pro that you all know so well is still running unsupported Sequoia via OpenCore Legacy Patcher. I'll give you my full update on unsupported Tahoe installations near the end of the video, but for now it's just important to make sure that the update you are considering installing is actually the right update for your Mac. And once you are ready to update, it's probably important to update before you update, if that makes any sense. So go back into System Settings, click General, and then click Software Update. If you're currently on Sequoia, install the latest Sequoia update before moving to Tahoe. If you're on Tahoe, install the latest Tahoe update before moving to Golden Gate. It's not technically required for every supported upgrade, but it's what I prefer to do. It makes sure that you have the latest fixes for your current OS and that everything's working properly before you decide to make that major jump. It's also probably a good idea to make sure that the applications you use the most are also up to date. So open the App Store and click Updates in the sidebar. Make sure everything gets updated. For an application that you downloaded from somewhere else, you may need to open the application and look for the Check for Updates option in its menu. If you use OpenCore Legacy Patcher, make sure the patcher itself is current before doing any macOS update. And for a major unsupported upgrade, I would build a fresh USB installer using the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher rather than simply clicking the Upgrade button in System Settings. This will generally make the update go more smoothly, and I show you exactly how to do it in my unsupported installation videos for both Sequoia and Sonoma, so make sure to check those out. Before I start cleaning or organizing anything, I make sure that I have a current backup. So I go into System Settings, click General, and then click Time Machine. I make sure my backup drive is connected and selected. If Time Machine is already set up, you can actually just click the Time Machine icon in the menu bar and choose Backup Now. Then let the backup finish and verify the date and time of the latest completed backup. Don't just assume it's been working because you connected the drive to your computer a few months ago. Check and make sure. There's also more of a modern backup issue, and that deals with iCloud Drive, because you may have some files that appear in Finder and appear to be on your computer, but are actually only in iCloud Drive. And so when you run a backup with Time Machine, it won't actually back up those files. So to check this, open Finder and click iCloud Drive in the sidebar. Press Command-2 on your keyboard to switch to List View. Then go up to the View menu, choose Show View Options, and turn on iCloud Status. You can now see whether a file is downloaded, still syncing, or stored only in iCloud. For an important project, right-click the file or folder and choose Keep Downloaded. You don't need to download every file you have stored online, just make sure the files you absolutely cannot lose have finished syncing and are actually downloaded before running your final backup. Also remember that iCloud Drive is a syncing service, so if you delete a file from one device, it will likely delete it from all your other devices. So once I have that first major backup, I like to use a major OS upgrade as an opportunity to do some spring cleaning. And that is where today's sponsor, CleanMyMac from MacPaw, comes into play big time. CleanMyMac gives me a faster way to see what is actually taking up space before a major update. Space Lens creates a visual map of the drive, so large folders stand out immediately. My Clutter helps me review large and old files, duplicates, and downloads. In the Applications section, can show apps that I no longer use, leftover files from old apps, and available updates. I still review everything before deleting it, but it makes this pre-update cleanup much easier to work through. CleanMyMac comes with a free 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can save 10% on a subscription by using the link in the description, so there's really no reason not to try it. Of course, you can also do quite a bit of this using tools already built into macOS. So you can start by going into System Settings, clicking General, and clicking Storage. Then give the Mac a moment to calculate everything. You can use the different categories here to see which types of files are using the most space. I personally like to have at least 50 gigabytes available before beginning a major update. That's not an official requirement for every Mac, but I find that it's a good amount of space to allow you to download the new operating system, open it up, unpack it, move some files around without ever having any hitches. And one of my favorite ways to find large files is right through Finder. So open up Finder, go to the File menu, and choose New Smart Folder. At the top, make sure you're searching this Mac. Click on the plus button to the right, then open the first filter menu, which usually says Kind, and choose Other. Search for file size, select it, and click OK. Set the file size search to greater than and put it to say 1 gigabyte. You could also change that to 500 megabytes or another size depending on how many results you get. Now select one of the files and press spacebar. That opens a quick look preview without launching the full application. You can use the arrow keys to move through the files and preview them one after another. To select a group of files, click on the first file, hold Shift, and then click on the last one. To select individual files that aren't next to each other, hold Command while clicking on each one. When you find something you no longer need, press Command-Delete to move it to the trash. If you delete the wrong item, press Command-Z to undo it. You can also click Save at the top of the Finder window to save this as a smart folder. That doesn't move or duplicate any files, it simply saves the search so you can return to it later. I have a full video on using smart folders on Mac, so I'll put a link to that in the description below as well. When you first start looking for files that you might want to delete, I'd recommend checking in your Downloads folder, your Applications folder, maybe your Documents folder. And you're going to look for things like old photo exports, zip files, DMG files, macOS installers, virtual machines, and applications that you no longer use. Once you're completely finished, press Shift-Command-Delete to empty the trash. Then restart your Mac, return to storage settings, and see how much space you've cleared up. Then you can connect your Time Machine backup and run another backup. The first backup protected you before you did all of your cleaning and reorganizing, and the second backup will serve as the backup that you're going to take to the new operating system. Now think about which applications you generally depend on. You don't have to research every little application on your Mac, but I'm talking about the big things like your editing software, if you have any VPN set up, if you have any peripherals like printers and stuff that require installed software. All of those things you're going to want to check. And there's also a quick way to find old Intel applications that are currently installed on your computer. So open System Information again, scroll down to Software, and then click Applications. Once the list loads, click the Kind column. That sorts the applications by type, so the Apple Silicon, Universal, and Intel applications are all grouped together. Intel applications will continue to work through Rosetta and Golden Gate, so they're not all suddenly breaking this year. However, Apple's confirmed that regular Intel software will no longer be supported in the next major macOS update, macOS 28. But for regular applications, Golden Gate is your warning year. When you find an Intel application that you still use, check whether the developer has a Universal or a Silicon variant. Once your applications are ready, there are just a couple more safety checks before you're ready to fully run the update. First of all, make sure you know your computer's administrative password. That's usually the password that you use to log in. Also, make sure you have access to your Apple account, your username and password for that. If File Vault is enabled, go into System Settings, click Privacy and Security, and open File Vault. Read the recovery information shown there and make sure you understand how you would regain access if your normal password stopped working. For a Mac that I really depend on, I would consider using a USB drive to create a bootable installer of the OS that I'm currently leaving. That way, once I run the update, if something goes wrong, I can just use that installer to downgrade back to the known good operating system. Apple has instructions on how to create these bootable installers, so I'll put a link in the description below. You can actually install a version of macOS on an external SSD drive, and then you can test out that version to make sure it works with all of your peripherals and applications before you decide to install that macOS on your actual internal drive. And if you're experimenting with an unsupported Tahoe installation, putting it on an external SSD instead of your main drive may save you some headaches and may even save you from breaking your computer. So I would definitely recommend that route if you're going to give it a shot. Now, for those of you who follow my unsupported Mac videos, here are where things currently stand. My 2020 Intel iMac is running Tahoe. That's the last supported version of macOS for it. Golden Gate will not be supported for it, and it doesn't look like there will be a good unsupported version of Golden Gate either. So it looks like Tahoe may be the end of the road for this iMac. Now, my 2013 MacBook Pro on the other side of the room there is still running unsupported Sequoia through OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Apple dropped support for it years ago. I don't even think it gets to Big Sur, but Sequoia runs nicely through OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Now, a lot of you have been asking about unsupported Tahoe, and the truth is a few people have been able to get unsupported Tahoe running on even 2013 Macs, but none of those installations have been stable, and there isn't one currently out there that I would recommend for a computer that you plan on using regularly, just if you're testing and experimenting, and that's it. For example, Tahoe 26.3 has been installed on a late 2013 MacBook Pro using an experimental OpenCore build and an external SSD. It did boot, but then the user also reported shutdown crashes and other installation problems. Tahoe's also been installed on a late 2013 iMac, but full graphics support and some other hardware were not working normally. So Tahoe has technically been made to run on Macs from 2013, but that doesn't mean that it's stable enough to use as an everyday computer. At the time I'm recording this, the latest regular OpenCore Legacy Patcher release is still version 2.4.1, and the official Tahoe support tracker remains open. The developers still list unresolved problems involving graphics, wireless, USB, and other hardware, and they haven't promised that a normal Tahoe release will even happen. That's why my 2013 MacBook Pro is staying on Sequoia. For older unsupported Macs, I recommend staying on the latest version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher and macOS that is currently stable and working well on that computer, and I wouldn't try going to Tahoe. That's likely going to be Sequoia for a lot of you, and for some of you with even older Macs, that might be Sonoma. As far as Tahoe is concerned when it comes to unsupported installations, go for it on an old Mac that you don't mind erasing and potentially even bricking, but in terms of everyday use, it's not really a viable option right now. And I also wouldn't expect Golden Gate to become a viable unsupported option through OpenCore Legacy Patcher either for Intel Macs, as Apple is dropping total support for Intel. For an Apple Silicon Mac, Golden Gate should be a normal install that you can run right through software updates when it comes out. I would still check the applications that you use the most to make sure they're compatible, but it should be pretty seamless. My unsupported Sequoia and Sonoma installation videos are still working really well, so make sure to check them out. And while you're cleaning out your Mac, remember, if you want some help along the way, CleanMyMac is a really trusted and powerful tool, so make sure to check that out as well. That's all I have for you for today, everyone. I'm Anton Alexander, and I'll see you in the next video.